Channel 3 watching us tonight. We're glad you're here, and we have a little crowd. With all those cars out there, looks like we'd have a big crowd. But tonight we're going to have our regular second meeting of the month, and we're going to have an invocation in just a little bit. Reverend Knox Bullock is here from the, I can't say it, Woodland Bible Church. And he's going to give our invocation. The invocation is given each time we meet. It's for the benefit of the council or the board of works, whatever the case might be. If you don't want to participate in it, it's just fine. And whatever reason that you came here tonight will have no bearing whether you participate or not in the invocation. So with that, I'd like for us all to stand. I'll ask our city attorney, John Baker, to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Obviously, Melissa's dad is still in Indianapolis. He's at sea. And remember that family if you would.
Let's pray. Father, we thank you for this day that you've given to us. And as the song says about America, you shed your grace on our country. And we thank you for shedding your grace on our country, our state, and our city. We thank you for our mayor and for our city council. Thank you that they are interested in the well-being of our city. And we're asking that you would give them wisdom and direction as they make decisions for our citizens. And give our city your blessings and your help. We are asking for your help for Larry Callahan today. Would you continue to be with him? Would you touch him and help all of his family? Once again, thank you for your grace and goodness to us, and we will be careful to praise you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Knox. So our first item of business tonight will be roll call.
Councilwoman Risch. Present. Councilman Weber. Councilman Schobel.
Present.
Councilman Nobby.
Here.
Councilwoman Montgomery.
Present.
Councilman Creech. Councilwoman Stevens.
Present.
Okay, the record will show that 5 council people are here. We have a quorum and we can do business. We call the meeting to order. First item of business will be the reading of the minutes of the last city council meeting of October 7th.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes as read.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes as they were sent out in your packets. Are there any additions or corrections? None appearing. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. I did forget to tell us to turn off our cell phones. I think mine's still off from the Board of Works, but I want to check here. Thank you so much for helping us there. We have a resolution 2013-52. This is preliminary tax abatement. Request for a public hearing for Connersville Commons. A little history on this. Connersville Commons is the complex that is just south of the driveway that goes into Walmart. The old barn was sitting there, and you notice the old barn is gone, and there's 2 pads there. One pad is for the large building. I think there's 4 stores on the south side, and then the big box store on the back side. Connersville Commons has requested a tax abatement for that. We called the Economic Development Commission together last week, and the Economic Development Commission has designated that as an area where a tax abatement could be given because of our condition in this city of being unemployment of tops in the state for the last 10 years, most of the time. Once in a while, Elkhart County beats us, but we've been either 1 or 2 most of the time, and they have declared that area as a place where this council could allow a tax abatement. This tonight is just a request for a public hearing, so first I'm going to ask, is there anyone here that would like to speak on behalf of Connersville Commons? And if you'll come forth and give your name and your address and your connection with Connersville Commons.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hello, my name's Katie Culp, and I'm with Cassidy Turley. I'm a senior managing director and principal with Cassidy Turley, which is a commercial real estate firm based in Indianapolis, Indiana, at One American Square downtown, former AUL building. Now it's known as One America. And I'm here tonight on behalf of the preliminary hearing for Connersville Commons. And by way of introduction, and my colleague Sarah Crabtree and Bill French are here, and Bill will be up here in a moment if you don't mind. He's also senior managing director and principal, and he is a commercial broker, so he'll speak to some of the market forces. But my background is I'm actually a former economic development director. I was in the Boone County Economic Development Director in Lebanon, Indiana for several years, and then ended up here. And so my job here tonight is to talk a little bit about the tax abatement request that we have before you, which is Mayor Urban said, and we've certainly appreciated your help and your staff's help as we've talked through this issue. We're here tonight to request preliminary approval for a public hearing which would occur in 2 weeks for this real property tax abatement. And I know the council is probably very familiar with how property tax abatement works, but as you'll see in the binder that I just passed out, I did do a brief review, and I'd like to just briefly kind of talk on that for a few minutes, primarily for your audience, who I know may not be as familiar with the tax abatement process and what that means as all of you are. In Noblesville, Indiana, where I do quite a bit of work, the mayor actually refuses to allow us to call it tax abatement. He insists on calling it a tax phase-in, because that's really what it is. Tax abatement kind of gives the viewer at home, and I think a lot of our taxpayers, the idea that this is some sort of a tax holiday, and that the property taxpayer is getting some sort of, whatever it be, whether 1 to 10 years of tax freedom from paying real property taxes over the course of and the life of the abatement. When in fact, as you know, and you can see on page 5 here, there's a schedule where there's a phase-in of tax liability over time, so that the property tax owner, as they start to construct the building and face those capital costs of constructing the facility, they get an opportunity to phase in some of that tax liability, and as they overcome the upfront capital costs and start to become operational and start to generate a profit, they can kind of phase in that property tax burden so that they can have a viable project and viable retail establishment, or commercial real estate establishment, I should say. So you can see that the council does have at its disposal the opportunity to give anywhere between 1 and 10 years of tax abatement, which is a phase-in of tax liability, not a tax holiday. And the reason that this is important, and I'll introduce Bill in a second and then let him speak to the market forces, and then I'll kind of conclude with a couple other examples. But Connersville, as you know, and Mayor...
You have an extra book.
Oh, sure do.
Would you give that to Dr. Hodges there? He's our economic development
We
president.
met earlier.
Is there anybody else in the room that would like to follow
Got 2
that
more.
along? Anybody else? Diana, you have a look.
There's certain, I'll put them up here if anybody changes their mind. But I know, and I recall from when I was working in Lebanon as the economic development director, it's challenging because, especially in today's situation with the property tax caps, and we were speaking about it earlier, there are a lot of challenges on the revenue base, and so to abate any type of potential tax revenue is a serious decision, and I know it's something that you all will give great thought to. And I know our public hearing would potentially, with your approval, be in 2 weeks, and we could explore this a little more fully, but I would encourage you to think really carefully about the fact that if you're a large national retailer there, and again, Bill French will speak to some of this, but there are a lot of communities in which you can operate and open up a new facility. And what moves a lot of that decision making has to do with rooftops and density of individuals and population and socioeconomic base. And that's one of the areas where, to be candid, sometimes there's a bit of a challenge here in Connersville. And that's why this real property tax abatement is so critical, because it will allow the property ownership here to be competitive with rental rates that would be similar in other markets that might be more attractive due to a denser population or less unemployment, socioeconomics, that type of thing. And so the tax abatement tool is really something I know will be considered judiciously and carefully, but can be a really powerful tool here to help enable and empower a developer to really attract some of the type of retail development that you'd really like to see for your citizens and for your leadership. And so we're here tonight to ask you to consider, at least at this juncture, to permit us to have the public hearing in 2 weeks so that we can certainly discuss this a little more fully, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about it. But this, I can tell you, and I'll close after Mr. French speaks, but is really a critical component of making this a viable development. And without the tool of tax abatement, I don't think that there's a guarantee that this development will kick off and be successful and attract the types of tenants that you would like to see for your community. So with that, I'll pause for a moment, introduce my colleague, Bill French, let him speak a little bit. He's a retail commercial broker who's been in the business for 29 years and has much more knowledge than I ever will about retail commercial development.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to
I'd like for you to
speak.
state your name again and your relationship so we can get it on the tape here. We're recording this.
I'm Bill French, Senior Managing Principal with Cassidy Turley Commercial Real Estate Services offices at One American Square, or One American Tower, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Makes it easy for us to write the minutes.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here tonight. Sorry about the voice. I did try to do the best for the Colts last night and scream my lines out. So I apologize that. For 29 years, I've worked with retailers to help them open new locations, and I do it all around the state. I've actually done work in 14 different states representing tenants on opening new locations. Do a lot of national and regional chains is what I do. What I've been working on here most recently is the Goodwill folks and the Dollar Tree folks, which are both new entries to town, and been working with them. But we want to bring in an additional complement of tenants into the marketplace, and we've had a lot of challenges doing that. Some of the retailers feel there's just not enough population. Some feel that too many of the people here in town go to Richmond and other places and do their shopping there. We call that leakage. What my job here is to try and do is keep that leakage from going to other communities, get people to spend dollars here in Connersville. And so we've been working hard to bring new people in and try to get them excited about the marketplace. The new Walmart goes a long way to doing that. Having a good location on Highway 1 has been very helpful. And the mayor's open door policy and his staff to assist anyone who's wanted to have good information about the property has always been welcome to call them, and they've been very helpful. But where we find ourselves with new construction, after going through the tsunami that we had in 07 and 08 and 09 in the retail world, is that the retailers are chasing the dollars. And the dollars could be in Oregon, or they could be in Maryland, or they could be in Florida, but they're going where the dollars are. So it's challenging for us in Indiana a lot of times to get them to open up stores because they're going where they can get a higher sales projection. We believe there's some good sales to be had in Connersville, Indiana, but we're running a situation where their projections are much lower than what we really need them to be in order for them to pay new construction rent. And with a tax abatement phase-in situation, as Katie was talking about, that enables us to have one more arrow in our quiver and one more opportunity to go back to these retailers and say, look, the community is behind you. They're willing to assist you in getting kick-started your business. Come on, let's sign a lease and let's get you into Connersville, Indiana. So what we see is we're $2 to $3 a square foot from where we need to be in our rents in order to make them work. And if we do have this form of phase-in, we can at least start at an even playing field where these people can get a sales pro forma that says, yes, we can be profitable in Connersville. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring some of the people back. Shoe Show is here. I think they left in 01, for example. We're trying to bring them back. Hibbett Sports was in town the other day. They turned it down, unfortunately, but I'm going to go back and try and figure out, okay, exactly why did you turn it down and what can we do? And if I had that tax abatement phrase in my sentence where I can say, well, I might be able to help you with some form of a tax abatement to help you lower your occupancy costs, I think I've got a shot at bringing them back to town. So I welcome any questions that you might have about what I do and what we're trying to do to fill up to as much as about 42,000 square feet of retail space there, just south of the Walmart. Katie?
I guess the only thing I would add, and again, would welcome any questions, just in recap, of course, tonight's a preliminary hearing. All we're asking this evening is that we get the opportunity in 2 weeks for final public hearing. To augment what Bill said on page 10 of the PowerPoint here, unfortunately, due to some non-disclosure agreements, we can't identify all the particular tenants, but we took verbatim from some correspondence we've had with a couple national retailers, some of the feedback we got that just really lines up very well with what Bill said about the occupancy costs and the rental rates being off from where they can get in some other markets. And that's the reason we're here tonight. We understand it's a tough decision, and that, again, going to the economic situation and property tax caps, these are hard decisions. But we're here tonight asking for the public hearing. We respectfully request that you consider maximum real property tax abatement to allow this retail establishment to be successful in attracting national retailers. But of course, the term of all of that, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Baker, but I believe the term can be determined in 2 weeks. But tonight, we're here to ask for that public hearing in 2 weeks. And again, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and I know Bill.
The number of employees you're thinking might be employed, the number of people.
That's a good question, and by Indiana law, we are required to commit to a minimum number of employees. The statute reads that there has to be some job creation, and so understandably, not knowing exactly who we're going to pull in, but we do believe that there are going to be dozens of employees, and we think that there will be some full-time positions, there will be some part-time positions, and of course, with retail development, the impact to a community is beyond just the direct jobs, but there's a multiplier effect, right? Those folks come to work and then they run out to lunch and then they run to the post office, and so there's a greater impact than even just the direct capital investment in the jobs.
The main criteria of tax abatement is employees.
Employees and capital investment, job
Yes.
creation and capital investment, yes.
So why is it advantageous, excuse me, for the people of Cartersville to abate this tax, or to have tax abatement on this property when we have so many empty buildings?
It's a great question, and I understand where it's coming from. And I might differ a little bit to Bill here, but in my understanding of it, these national retailers are not looking for space that has already been developed. They're looking for new, shiny space that conforms to what their national brand identity is. And so the existing space, while it's challenging as an elected official, we've got this vacancy and why can't we just put them there? Because national retailers aren't going to be interested in that type of space. They want new development. And so in order to entice them to come to a market that might be a little smaller in terms of density or overall population or per capita income, there has to be a way for these retailers to be made whole and to pay rental rates that are competitive with where they could get in markets where there isn't necessarily some of those economics going on. So that's why I think it's so important. Yes, ma'am.
Would you consider a 5-year rather than a 10-year tax abatement?
We'd have to go back to our client for that. I mean, obviously, this is the council's decision, and so we appreciate any consideration they can give. We did take a careful look and know that this is not a community that just freely gives tax abatement to anybody any Tom, Dick, and Harry who comes in and asks for it. But when we gave pause before coming before the council, we did have intention behind our request for the 10 years. As we looked at the pro formas, that level is really important for this development to be successful. With that said, the council will, I know, review this carefully, and its determination will factor in what that decision is with the pro forma and see what works.
Other questions? Are these leases, triple net leases, where the tenant's gonna pay the taxes?
The tax benefits will be passed on to the tenant.
What we're looking to doing is passing on to the tenant the differential between the two. So that's how we can give a lower rental rate than enables them to then feel comfortable about hitting their pro forma.
And are you aware we're going to use our tax abatement procedure on this project? They are aware of it, they know how it works?
Yes. We are here on behalf of them this evening.
But I mean, we have our own procedure that we use. We have a scoring card that we use. Are you aware of that?
We've been made familiar with the policy. I don't know that I've
Okay,
seen
well,
the scoring.
You need to get with Diana because
Okay.
we established a procedure through economic development, which this council accepts. And it takes jobs that are created and takes revenue plus the capital investment. And she has a formula and she has to produce that for us for that public hearing.
Great. Well, she's been fantastic
I
to
know
work
she
with.
has, but I want to be sure that you two
We will.
have visited with her and we're going to go through that, so that's available in 2 weeks.
I appreciate that, Mayor, and truly, I want to stay on public record. I work all over the country and all over the state, and she's phenomenal, so we will connect and make sure to get that.
We have desperately worked with everybody, and I know we've worked with this company, and we've been with them for a year and a half. I went to the Economic Development Commission to try to get money to help with the sewer and water line, and they came up with that, because everybody wants this to work. We want investment, and we want that to be built out, but I do want you to follow our procedure that we use here.
Absolutely.
Okay. Further questions? Anybody in the audience would like to speak? I think, Dr. Hodges, would you like to speak on this issue?
Wasn't prepared to do that. I do have a question on the chart, though, I guess.
Would you come forward, Dr. Hodges, so we can get you on TV and get you in our...
We can wait on that.
Dr. Hodges is president of the Economic Development Group. He also is superintendent of schools, so he wears two hats, although he's not wearing any tonight.
There you go. There you go. Well, I was just curious about the chart. It shows two different things. Where is
What page you on?
I'm on page 5.
We'll get there with you, okay.
And rather than just assume that I know the answer to the question, are we talking about a declining percentage of abatement over years, or is it stay at a flat level until the abatement's over?
Yeah, it goes, if you take the 10 years, it starts out at 5, 10, that's how it abates back in, or that's how it goes back in.
Okay.
If you look at the 5 years, it's 20% each year.
I just wanted to make sure I was reading the chart correctly.
Yeah,
One
you
could
read it
read
from
it that
the
way.
bottom up.
One can read it that way, or one might be able to read it another way, and I wanted to make sure I had clarity and the council had clarity
Yes.
before you took action.
Yeah.
So it is a declining rate over time.
Yes.
That's really the only question I have.
If you went with the 5 years, the first year, you would pay 20%, and it would phase into, you pay 100% at the end of the 5th year. And in Indiana, depending on what time of the year you get your property assessed, you could actually come up with 6 years. Because if you would open the store or get assessed, and Nancy can back me up, in April, you'd have a whole year before you were assessed, so you'd actually get 6 years. Nancy was assessor for 20-some years. How many, Nancy?
23.
23.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing that I forgot to say, and again, I know the council is well aware of this, but for the viewers at home, while real property tax abatement does phase in the way that Dr. Hodges just pointed out, land and personal property is paid in full. So this is not applicable to the cost of land, and it's not applicable to the personal property. So should the council decide to support this tax phase-in, there would be full taxes paid on personal property and on land.
I think that's the reason the Economic Development Commission decided this. Mr. Baker prepared that resolution for him, because anytime in this community that we're probably going to get a national brand, and we've been working hard to get a restaurant up there, and I saw some notes on my desk today where I think you've talked to two, or whether you have or they have, it takes that in order to make it work. And we were talking to a fellow the other day in Indianapolis that is coming here without an abatement, although we're giving him some incentives, that he said we should phase in all taxes, and really that makes sense. It would be wise. You open up a new business, you don't know whether you're going to sell $10 worth or $10,000 worth, and so if you give a phase-in period and you phase in gently, and it should be fair and we should give it to everybody, we shouldn't. That's my opinion now. I don't think we should pick and choose. But it is hard to start a new business. If any of you ever did it, you come up and you owe that tax right off the bat. It's easier if you can phase it in, and then when you're up and running, you get full property tax or real estate tax, as it really is. But I'm not here to tell you what to do. You have to make the decision.
Well, I
And what
think
we're
we're just-
asking tonight is for you to give us
That's right.
permission for a public hearing.
I move that we, on November 4th at 7 PM, have the public hearing for this request for tax abatement by Connersville Commons.
Second.
I have a question. I mean, I'm
Wait,
fine with
wait,
that.
hold on. Okay, do we have a second?
Yeah, Nancy
Okay,
said.
I'll declare we have a motion on the floor. Now we're open to discussion. Go ahead.
I'm with Gabe. We're all obviously concerned about having these empty buildings that we have, and I understand what you're saying about the nice, shiny new. Is there an advantage to giving them 10 years versus like 5? Is there more of a commitment for them to stay here and not vacate a building and leave us with yet another building? Is that?
It's a very good question, and I may rely on my colleagues for some real estate wisdom here, but I can tell you that the ownership here is committed to a long-term hold, and their ability to have a longer-term abatement will strengthen their ability to get a longer-term lease from the tenants. So if you can, if Bill, as the broker, or if the ownership can go in and say, we have a 10-year real property tax abatement or phase-in, the tenant is more likely to see, oh, hey, we're gonna see these direct benefits for this longer period of time and perhaps commit for a longer term of lease than they might otherwise. So I think it really strengthens the position of the community and of the developer to attract a longer term commitment, but I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Well, the one thing I would say, it does show an increased commitment from the city towards the tenants. And the other thing it also does, if you're making a presentation, and most of these retailers come to a panel like this, and it's called the real estate committee. And so they're coming to their real estate committee and saying, well, this is why I want to be in Connersville, Indiana. And when you sign a national lease, sometimes they're 5 years, sometimes they're 10, sometimes they're 15, but oftentimes you have multiple option periods that are there. Most of these retailers, it takes between 10 and 15 years to write off the initial improvement that they're making. So they're definitely looking at staying, not 5 years. They're really looking at staying a longer period of time. So if you give them a 10-year abatement, it'll go that much further in the real estate committee as, wow, okay, if we can get a 10-year abatement, that covers us, so we can write off all the improvements that we made in the space when we're trying to open a store in Connersville, Indiana. So that's the benefit.
Let me ask you a question right up front, straight out. Is this going to be a deal breaker?
I think it's a deal maker.
Is it a deal breaker if we don't give it?
I think we're in hot water without it. I think it could be a deal breaker.
The company
if we do
owns
not
the
have this.
property and they've already put the bases down for the 2 buildings. And I'm going to ask you straight out, is it a deal breaker?
Our financing's counting on it, so it's a deal breaker if we don't get it. I mean, I just don't see how
So
they're
what
gonna
will
be able to
happen to
make it
that
happen.
property if there is not a tax abatement?
Could look the same in the future as it does now.
I think that's a question that everybody's going to ask. Okay, thank you. Anybody else out there like to speak?
I got something. I think if we do this, I really like the mayor's idea about if we're gonna do it for businesses, we should do it for all, not just one here. I think right now, we're picking sides. We're giving an advantage over a new business or a new development over businesses or properties already here. So I'd be in favor of doing something that was equal, but right now, as a governmental entity, we're picking sides. I don't agree with this.
Yeah, it's too bad that's the way the law is set out, that we have the right to give, not give, and we have the right to determine when. I hadn't heard about what we were told last week, but it makes sense. I have started businesses 2 or 3 times in Connersville without abatements, and I know it's tough to pay the property tax the first couple of years. So anyway, we only have one decision, and I think you wanted to make a motion?
I did, and we've never turned down an abatement, so I don't know. I realize what Gabe is saying, but Gabe, they haven't come to us requesting an abatement.
But if you give an abatement to this new development, you're taking the people who own the old Walmart building, the old Kmart building, all the other old buildings around here, and basically putting them at a disadvantage. So, I mean, if we wanted to do something that was an equal playing field, I'm okay with that. But if we do this as a government entity, we're picking sides.
That's the way our state government set it up for us. Too bad, but that's the way it is. And you're not only picking sides, there's 2 other. Walmart didn't ask for an abatement, so they didn't get one. And the other complex north of the Walmart Drive didn't ask for an abatement, so they didn't get one.
I mean, we're picking winners and losers here, so.
And of course,
I can't
abatements
mind that.
were put in here as incentives. And, that's why Mr. Baker, when he wrote the resolution, because of our condition, if we're going to get new businesses in here and we're going to get new stores like the people getting a shoe store, we hear it every day. It seems like that's the only way we can do it, but you're right. But this is what the state gave to us. It's like a TIF, Is it fair? I think grants are terrible. We send all our money to Washington and then we hire her to beg to get us a grant. Why don't we just per capita send back how much money? If we got 24,000 people, send us back equal 24,000, send Indianapolis 750,000. Why do we have to sit there and beg and then we spend thousands and thousands of dollars to write these grants to get our own money back? Don't make sense to me, but that's the way the world is. Well, anyway, our decision tonight is to grant or not grant a public hearing. Did you want to make a motion?
I made the motion.
You did. Did we get a second?
Nancy
We're
seconded.
still under discussion. Nancy?
Seconded.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Are you all ready? Ready for the
Yes.
question? We'll have a roll call vote. She's getting ready. I could tell she's getting ready. Roll call vote.
Councilwoman Stevens,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rish,
Yes.
Councilman Shomel,
Yes.
Councilman Nabi,
No.
Councilwoman Montgomery,
Yes.
Okay, I think we have 4-1. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, it stands. We'll have a public hearing on November the 4th at 7 p.m. And I urge you to get Diana up to speed so we can go through our abatement qualification program that we have on the books, okay?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome to sit here and listen to the rest of this tonight, or you're welcome to go back where you came from.
I have two little kids to talk to.
You're not looking at the job as an economic development director, are you?
They won't have me.
Well, we're looking for one if you find one. Yeah.
I know some good people.
Paul, you see, wait a minute, you got your card, Dr. Hodges? We are in the process of looking.
I know some good people. Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
your
much.
consideration. Thank you.
Have a safe trip.
That's it for thank you.
Okay, thank you all for going through that.
I think we need to think about something like what Gabe brought up. Is there anything that we can do to
No, it would be
attract-
against the law for us to just blanket give everybody an abatement.
No, is there anything that we can do to somehow make our other buildings more attractive? Tractor Supply, I know they went into the Cox's
Well,
Now it's like
Marsh
your laundry.
End.
Since they left the room, let me tell you what happened. We've been working on this for more than a year. At one time, they had 2 other entities that were going into this Conoco Commons. And they began to negotiate down at the other place where Tractor Supply is. And they cut the rent down there to keep them from going up there, and they stayed there.
New Tractor Supply.
No,
No.
2 other businesses
Oh.
that are down there.
Oh.
And one that went across the road.
Oh.
They actually had 2 others that were tentatively signing up with this group.
Oh.
So they lost 2 tenants out of this complex. That's the reason I pushed the issue. Is this a deal breaker? And I'm just glad I'm not a council person. I have to make this decision. Because I see both sides of this. We've got to collect taxes in order to plow the streets. But we've got to have business to pay taxes on employees and to turn that dollar. And then our people want nice things in town. And when you ask the question, they want to be up there because they want to be next to Walmart. There's no beating around the bush about it. That's why they want to be up there. If Walmart was down the other one, they'd be pushing to be down there. Did you notice how they kind of,
Well, I think the old Walmart Center could be something still.
and it
I mean,
is. and-
I'd rather go there if there was something there than go all the way up
And
north.
believe me, we're working on that. We talk to people at least once or twice a month about that building. You got a first name basis with it, don't you?
We've had conversations. We have.
Well, you have to remember, we're in competition with a lot of other towns that would like to have new
Okay.
businesses.
Thank you so much for indulging in that. We'll run that in. Prepare for a long meeting. Bring your lunch. We're on resolution 2013-56. This is a reimbursement. If you remember, we had the real bad spill out on Third Street, and we spent a lot of money, and this is our reimbursement, $37,584.88. Believe me, we kept track of every penny we lost, spent, man-hours, and this is our reimbursement. So I'm asking you to pass that and take that into the general fund.
So moved.
Yes, got a motion. Did you second it, Nate?
You got it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to receive $37,584.88 back into the general fund, resulting from the Pramco spill. Any discussion at all? Anybody? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's funny how when you're taking money in, it's so much easier.
It's pretty easy then.
Pending ordinance 3078, this is a transfer in the park of $4,000 from repair of buildings to other repairs and building materials and minor equipment. It's at the end of the year and we're having to move money all around.
A lot of it is 300 counts, is contractual stuff. Since we have Bill now, we're not hiring much of anything out. He's fixing it all, but that money needs to come out 200 accounts, so we're getting low on that kind of, those items. That's the reason for the transfer.
Very simple transfer. Pending ordinance 3078, any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I move to accept pending ordinance 3078.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass pending ordinance 3078 on first reading. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would you like to suspend the rules and consider it on third and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion on the floor to suspend rules, on suspension of rules only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We can move forward if you like.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to consider pending ordinance 3078 on third and final reading. Just as a transfer in the park for $4,000 from repair of buildings to other building materials and minor equipment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We have a like ordinance, pending ordinance 3079. This is additional appropriation from the general fund to advertise, or for a public hearing of $47,223 for the fire truck payment.
Now, this is the order.
Now this, we have to advertise for public hearing.
I believe it's been advertised.
Has it been advertised?
Thought it was.
My paper doesn't say it's been advertised.
Not giving a date for the,
Will you check the minutes? Well, let's move on. Check the minutes there. Pending ordinance 3079, excuse me, pending ordinance 3080. This is an ordinance for additional appropriation for the trash truck payment. We need $13,800 put in and plus $5,400. Has that been advertised for public hearing? Not there, we can't remember in 2 weeks.
I don't see the number on there.
We would have had a public hearing 2 weeks ago.
I don't think we did.
I thought I saw the ad in the paper, the legal.
When's it due?
I don't see it on here. Yeah.
We didn't advertise.
I don't recall it
We
being.
didn't talk to them.
This is, we're asking for a public hearing for these two.
It's just the number.
Okay, this is only giving us permission to advertise for a public hearing on the payment of the fire truck 47,223 on 3079.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I move to accept pending ordinance 3079.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Joan, if that was just asking for a public hearing, it'd just be a resolution. We wouldn't have an ordinance asking for a penny.
Yeah, your first one on the agenda is a resolution for preliminary tax abatement request for public hearing.
I don't understand why we don't see it in the minutes.
It doesn't have to be an ordinance.
Let's just
It
pass
doesn't
it.
hurt to be an ordinance. It doesn't
I
have
think
to be.
Julie just advertised because she knew we needed it. I think there've been a couple of times when we haven't authorized it, she went ahead
And it did.
and advertised it and then.
Let's pass
came
it.
before us.
We know we gotta pay it, so let's pass it. Pending ordinance 3079, $47,223, fire truck payment. Someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we pass pending on this 3079.
Second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would you like to suspend rules, consider it on third and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
On pending ordinance 3079, on third and final reading, on suspension of rules. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried. You can go forward if you like.
So moved.
Second.
We have pending ordinance 3079, $47,223 fire truck payment. On third and final reading, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
I think tonight is the public hearing
Okay.
on both of these.
Pending ordinance 3080. This is a additional appropriation, $15,860 for the trash truck payment and $5,400 for recycle bags. Anybody out there have any discussion? None appearing? What's your pleasure?
You know what the other equipment is that we're buying at the street department?
We're not buying any equipment.
He said that was for the trash truck.
Trash truck is the first one, and $5,400 is recycle bags.
The payment on the trash.
Okay, payment on the trash,
Yes.
okay.
And do they not really, he only buys those how often, or he doesn't
Once or
have
twice a year,
a budget
yeah.
for
Couple
that?
of times a year.
Yeah,
When they run out, they will.
yeah. I make a motion to pass pending ordinance 3080.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to pass pending ordinance 3080 on first reading, $13,800 trash truck payment, $5,400 recycle bags. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Would you like to suspend the rules?
So moved. Second.
On suspension of rules only on pending ordinance 3080. Suspension of rules only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. You may move forward.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to consider pending ordinance 3080, putting $13,860 from the general fund for trash truck payment, $5,400 for recycle bags in the OT fund. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Pending
Mr.
ordinance
Mayor.
3081.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
With all due respect, I'd like to have Dr. Hodges speak to us before we consider pending ordinance 3081 or any kind of funding for the EDG.
Okay, there's a problem here. This is to change the capital plan. And the bottom one down here is to vote on third reading on the ordinance. Would you like to speak to both?
I came to make a presentation on behalf of EDG. I'm not really sure I fully understand your
Okay.
protocol here. So
We have an ordinance 3081, it's a pending ordinance, to amend the capital plan, and it's in your packet to say that the city will pay whatever the county pays, up to $60,000 to DDG in 2013. That's amending the capital plan. That will pass, or not pass. Then we go down to the pending ordinance 3035. That ordinance is on third reading, and all we would do is change from 110 to 60 and vote on that on third reading.
I would like for, if Dr. Hodges doesn't mind, I'd like to hear him speak before we discuss any of this.
If he would like to.
I have a question. On 3081, if y'all have a copy, go down 4 paragraphs, which is the last paragraph.
Where you at?
3081. I think it's just a typo. But the first sentence in the fourth paragraph says the city of Connersville would be pay an amount. Would be pay?
I think that's a typographical error.
I do too.
I think I'd
Would
be,
pay,
Would pay, is that it?
yeah.
would pay. The attempt there is to match the capital plan of the county.
Okay.
I think we knew when we passed the other ordinance that the county was only given 60,000. And we went on and passed the other ordinance on first reading to give the 110. And I just think that it's only fair, Dr. Hodges has sit here all evening, that he get to speak before we make
And
any
we
kind
intended to,
of
but I thought he wanted to speak on the final reading. I didn't think he wanted to speak on the capital plan, but go ahead if you want to.
One of the things I love about being EDG director is things change all the time. Is it appropriate to go through my whole presentation, or do you want to speak strictly about finance at this time and save the other for later? What's your
Well, my
pleasure?
hope was to take the capital plan first, because the other comes out of old business, because we're on third
Okay.
reading.
Would you
Let-
like
let
to
me-
see a copy of that?
Let me talk about budget then, okay, and then we'll talk about some, because there's some exciting things happening, and I don't want to cloud the issue with that, but I believe tonight you received a copy of the financials from Economic Development Group.
Yes, it should be in your packet.
One of the things I'd like to call your attention to, I think it's the third page in, it's called the Profit and Loss Budget and Actual January through December 2013. I did not prepare this budget, but as you look at the budget, the first column of numbers that you see under January through December is the revenue that EDG has collected. And the second column contains the numbers of what the budget projections were, and you can see that when the budget was made out, there was an expectation that the city would be providing $90,000. Now, over the course of this year, that number has grown to as much as $110,000, and then it's gone back to, I guess, $60,000 is what your ordinance has today. Just one thing in the for what it's worth category, I was going to save this to see if you were going to ask me questions, but as I shared with Diana, I was growing concerned back there that all my presentation would be done before I had a chance to even go through it. But picking up on a comment that the mayor said is that speaking of tax dollars, that all these tax dollars go to Washington, then you have to beg for those dollars to come back and you don't get back what it is that you pay in. Let me share with you expenses that EDG has paid this year or has committed to pay that one could build an argument, I think, are really city expenses, but we are in desperate need of jobs. We need to work together. We're all in this together. We need to do what we can to, as I say when I have my school superintendent hat on, we need to get our parents back to work, and what can we do to make that happen? Expenses that we have paid out, there has been some conversation as to what this is. You can see there's program expenses in that I think that's reported at, I want to say $48,000. $38,410 of that was to Barnes and Thornburg for bills that go back from...
What number are you on, Dr. Hodges? They're all numbered. Tell us what number you're on.
Well, the Barnes and Thornburg isn't on that one.
Legal fees is on there, 510.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
Project expense, 536. $46,520.33. When I've asked what makes up that, part of that is the bill to Barnes and Thornburg, starting on the bill, the starting date. You do not have a copy of that. If you'd like a copy, I'd be more than happy to give that to you. It starts in November of 2011. It's been portrayed as different things in my hearing, but as I've gone through this, all of the bills to Barnes and Thornburg dealt with the lease that the city had with Carbon Motors and getting out of that lease so the city could be in a position to dispose of that building. And because of the work of that, then Wise Auto's coming here, and we're thankful for that. But that bill was...
Wait, hold on a minute. 536 says project expense, $8,109.
No, it's 450.
Not here on the page.
Well, then why doesn't 536 project that?
The pages are all numbered one, and that's kind of a confusing
Yeah, that's very confusing.
problem.
But I beg to differ with you. That was also going through the steel recoveries, numerous other things. John, help me.
I'd be happy to make a copy and share this with you, but it all revolves around Carbon Motors, IEDC, and getting out of that particular lease. It was conveyed to the EDG board, I was not the director at the time, but it was our understanding that these things need to be taken care of so that the city could sell the building. There was $200,000, I think, in earnest money that was subject to be lost. My thought, and I think the sale of the building was supposed to be in the $4 million range if all of that went. My thought as a board member is that I would support the expenditure of this to help the city get through that, with the understanding when you got the $4 million, someone would come back to you and ask for that money back. You didn't get the $4 million, we're not asking for that back, but to come back to the comment about getting what you pay in. So those $38,410. We talked about the Connersville Commons and the utilities. EDG was asked to pay $10,000 to run utilities out there. I'm not 100% sure why that was an economic development expense. That seemed to me that should come from Connersville. Utilities are from the city because you sell the material, you profit from that. But there again, to help keep the project moving, we agreed to pay a share of that, up to $10,000. Most recently, we've been talking about the closing cost for the sale of the Wayzata building. The last number that I heard, John and I were together last week, and from the time we started talking to the time we left, it went up $10,000, and I'm afraid to ask him if that's still a fair number.
As far as I know, it's still
45,000, a few cents.
45 plus.
In the neighborhood of 45,000. So if you
Yes,
take the 38,000, the 10,000, and the 45,000, one could build an argument that EDG has paid on the city's behalf $93,410. Now, it's all about bringing jobs in, but it's all about the spirit of, are we working together, and what's the spirit of fairness? So
Can I talk about the spirit of fairness right there? Since 2009, the city has taken on $4 million in cleanup of that building. They've taken on $100,000 a year in insuring that building, and an average of $7,000 to $10,000 in a light bill in that building. If you add all that together, in the spirit of working together, that's a tremendous expense.
but it was your building.
I presume that everybody in Fayette County is going to work there. Why is it the city's building?
It is not now. It was then. I'm not here to argue. All I'm trying to
It was
say.
an economic development project. That building was taken on by the city. Nobody else would take it on. It would be in a bankrupt court and be in shambles today had we not had this council the courage to take that and clean it up. I have been told by many cities that have a lot of guts to go in there and take that building and try to do something with it. So when it comes to the city and the county and EDG spending money, the little bit of money that you put into that project is pittance compared to what the city has put into it. Now, I think that the county, the city, the school corporation, and everybody else is going to enjoy the 309 jobs that are up there. So I don't want to hear about telling me that you have put more into it than we have.
I don't think that's
Because
what
we
that's.
have put way too much into it.
That is not what I said.
Okay.
That's not what I said. I was talking about your return on investment into EDG. That's all I'm talking about. I'm just letting the council know where the expenditures have gone, what we were expecting, and what you're now talking about this evening.
But I did not see the county step up and help us pay the insurance. I did not see the EDG step up and say, we'll pay half the insurance. I did not see any of these other things that we had to pay. We had to struggle and pay those things, so someday we could create jobs for everybody in Fayette County. And I don't think the city needs to be ashamed of what we asked you to support us in.
And I think EDG, as I shared with you before, Mayor, every time that you've asked us for money since I've been associated with that, we've come through for you on that. And all I'm saying, I'm not here arguing and saying we are not going to participate in these expenses. I think it's important for the council, if they are going to be funding EDG, they need to know what benefit is coming back to them. That's all. We are very thankful that we were able to, and you were able to get the building out of bankruptcy court. It was through a lot of hard work that we were able to finally attract a business there that's going to be a very viable business. I was by there again today. The building is looking better. Drove by when the job fair was going on. It's exciting to see people standing in the line for a job as opposed to people I see standing in line when we're working with gleaners. It's a very positive thing, and so I'm not here to argue with you over this. I'm trying to help everybody have a full understanding of what's happening. That's my own.
I want to go to the second tier of this. We fully intended to pay $110,000. That's the way we were, because we thought our edit tax was coming through. Edit tax was up, it was coming through. Little did we know that the county would cut us, and we just barely had enough to pay the pool payment, which is our edit project that we have to pay. It's a bond, and we have to pay it. So now we find ourselves in a place, where will we get that money from to put into economic development? Where will we get it? We don't even have the 60 to pay tonight, but we've got enough to pay the first half or quarter. Do you know where we are exactly?
No, I don't.
Well, we're close, right? But we don't have enough to pay the whole 60. We're hoping by the end of the year, the county will send some more edit tax over here so we can pay the 60. That's why we said tonight, we would like to amend our capital plan to pay 60 or equal to the county, not to exceed 60. That's what we intended to do tonight, because we have no choice. I mean, we don't have it, you don't have
Well,
it.
in listening to some of the conversation from previous meetings, I just wanted to make sure that the council understood how the money was being used for the betterment of Connersville and Fayette County. I mean, there again, we're talking in my presentation, if I get a chance to come back, and right now I'm not sure I'm going to be invited back up to talk about, but there's a lot of exciting things going on right now. There's a lot of positive things that are a result of a lot of people working together to make them happen here.
Just this afternoon, I went over, we worked the Pramco property, and I've got it written down here someplace. If you have the figures there. We worked the Pramco property for almost 4 years. Worked it hard. Asked economic development for nothing other to finance it. And then we came back with $67,500. Of that, $40,000 was clear money given to the EDG. I just checked that out this afternoon.
It's reflected in the miscellaneous income.
That came back to you today. So if you add those things up that we were able to put in, you got a long way to go before you need to ask the city for more money.
I'm just asking the city to honor what was said at one time, that you're going to give us $110,000. Representing EDG, I would be remiss if I didn't make that request.
Well, if this council wants to appropriate $110,000 we don't have, I'm certainly open to it.
What's your primary source of funding?
Primary source?
Of funding is-
City and county at this
Okay.
point in time. That's primary.
And you get some from other things, as the mayor said.
Correct. This year we did get money from the sale of the Pramco property. There's a UEA management agreement that we received some funds. So there are some other funds. It's not 100% through the city and the county, but the vast majority of it is.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, I was under the impression that what the county was cutting the edit funds on was next year, not this year. This year, wasn't it next year's taxes that the edit amount was cut on?
We're also cut this year.
We didn't get over 200,000 this year? What did we
have
get
got the
this
full
year?
payment paid, and I think we ought to add a little bit to it.
I think so.
And then we also,
I heard the number 98,000, but I thought that was for next year.
we have some money in there to pay the first part of the economic development tax. I was prepared, as you know, to pay, and I asked you to pay 110, that's why we changed the capital plan. But we
Until
don't have it,
August
and I don't know
5th
where
you
you would
did.
take it from, unless you go and dip into the general fund. I would love to. You know me, I want to spend all we can in economic development. I believe that's our future.
As
So
I recall,
we have made the pool payment? We
Yes,
did.
pool payment's made.
And you don't have a figure of how much we had to add to it?
I did, I got so many figures in my head right now,
But it was-
I don't know what it's gonna be at.
as I recall, part of the discussion when this was up for first or second reading, or wherever we were at, there was some conversation of holding back some of that $110,000 for a spec building. That was one of the reasons the amount was being reduced. I could be wrong in my recollection, but that's what I thought I saw on TV. Didn't read it in the paper, so I trust what I saw on TV.
That was one of the reasons it was tabled, I think.
Was to use money, to start earmarking money for a spec building. The city was wanting to do
Yeah,
that.
wanting to earmark it, and Julie thought
Right.
that would be very difficult to do, and
Or even legal at that
Yeah,
point.
or legal
Mhm.
at that
Right.
if we went on and passed it in third reading.
We're going to take action on pending ordinance 3081.
I think
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna do some checking here and be sure we got our figures right before we,
I've got the minutes from those meetings.
but on the pool payment, I wanna be sure what we paid and where we are. But I asked her just the other day if we had enough to pay the whole 60, and she said, no, we could pay our spring payment and hope by the end of the year, then the county would give us more money, or we could pay the fall payment. She's checking those figures.
I think, weren't we, at some point, wasn't there some discussion about, was there refinancing of the pool too, or?
We did
Doing the bond?
refinance the pool
Okay.
in order to lower the interest rate,
Okay,
and we brought the payment down.
so it did get dropped, and,
And one time I could tell you that too, but I'd have to look at a document, I can't.
How about we table this motion 3081 for this, you can pick it up later in the meeting, and let's move on to the transfer to the city, 3082.
Okay. Let her see what she can do.
We need her to return before we...
Yeah, she really needs to be here to work on this. But let's get, it
Let's
shouldn't
start
take her very
reports.
long to get to
We
the.
could start reports.
Let's do it, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go with the fire department. Troy, you want to give us a report?
September was a very busy month. We flushed all the hydrants in the city, started on our annual hose testing. 93 total runs, 168 hours on emergencies, 11 inspections, 8 investigations, 4 pre-planned tours. And we worked part-time 27 days at cost savings of $92.50 approximately. Also, we had 3 firefighters at a swiftwater rescue class at South Bend. It's one of the best in the nation. So, we had, the river is always pretty dangerous for us, so we decided to spend it on, that way on our training this year.
Are you at full strength yet?
Now, we have 2 firefighters off from surgery.
When's the return date yet?
One the 15th of November, one's possibly the 25th of October.
Okay, total cost for last month, $218,370.33.
Any questions or? Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks Department, September report, revenue $10,997. Attached is an expenditure report. Only thing really stands out is 231, $4,965. Most of that is the new industrial park building materials. Activity programming, the last bicentennial event happened, the John Connor Players, September 27th, 28th, happened in the Roberts Building. We have over 250 kids playing youth soccer this fall. We got the banquet hall painted at the Miller Center. The horse barns electric has been updated, and that's one of the benefits of having Bill Dunn to the maintenance man, because in the past, It always needed to be done, just couldn't afford to hire an electrician to come down and do that, so he was able to get that done, took about 3 days to rewire all 4 barns and get them back to code. We had our first wedding reception in the Roberts Building, over 250 people, went very well, and we're in the process of restabilizing the cover bridge right now, if you haven't noticed the newspaper.
It is stabilized.
It is stabilized, we still doing some work around it.
Did the FOP take over the Frazee Center?
So I
ever?
was just getting ready to ask that.
The FOP was, so we still rent it though. I see where you rented the Frazee Center.
Oh, that must be, that's.
No, we don't rent it.
Yeah, we don't rent it anymore. That's probably just a misprint.
Okay, but the FOP.
That should probably be amphitheater, at 540 should be up.
Okay.
Yeah, the FOP does rent out the Frazee Center. We have nothing to do with that
I knew we
now.
approved that, but
So
I
it's
didn't know
not,
if it ever became.
it's not one of our buildings?
No.
It is. They
It
have a
is, but-
long-term lease,
Oh.
and then they sublease it.
Oh,
Yeah, that
But they have all the
540.
expense too.
so we don't maintain it?
Mike, how's the rental come on the John Minner, the John Carter building,
The
or James Roberts?
Roberts,
Yeah, whatever.
there's a lot of names, there's a lot of names in the park.
Which building?
Pretty well, it's picking up, I mean, there's not really a weekend available in either building year round, so it's been better and better. As more people sit, the better it gets. Next year, June, July is being booked up for graduation, so it's doing pretty well. But the more people that visit the building, it seems like the word of mouth gets out better and better.
Is there any talk about next year planning for the, I know it's early, but for the fair next year, using it in some form or fashion?
No, they haven't said anything yet.
I don't know if they've thought about that or not.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mike. Police Department's next, Dave.
We have 1,002 law reports, 8 citations, 2 ordinance violations, 5 warnings, 8 personal injury accidents, 33 property damage accidents, and 0 fatalities, and 119 arrests. And as far as our budget, overtime appears to be down. And so you got any questions, Frank?
No, your total amount was $197,966.17.
Any questions for anyone?
Thank you. David?
I'd like to read just a couple minutes of my time for Mike.
Yeah, next Tuesday, the 29th, is our annual Halloween party at the park, at the, at the Miller Center, 5 to 7, games, hay wagon rides, all that. The 29th, next Tuesday. I forgot to say that. I'll give my time up to David.
You yield your time to David.
I don't have the report you have in front of me, but you see what we've done, and we seem to keep somewhat busy, and like we were mentioning before with the grass and so on, we're still mowing, we're mowing today, and weather permitting, we'll be mowing the next few days to get everything caught up. Waiting for the first frost, and that should taper it off then. But we keep pretty busy.
I was telling Dr. Hodges how much we spent on that building. We also mowed it for the last, since 2009, and trimmed it. Another expense. And you'll see us up there mowing one more time, because our agreement with what I said it was, we would mow it until the end of this year. That was part of the incentive to get them to go there.
So hopefully we can mow it yet this week, I'm hoping, if not the first of next, and we'll be done with that, I'm hoping, if the frost kills it, slows it down. Something else is coming up, we're starting next Monday, the 28th, we're gonna start picking up leaves, curbside leaf pickup and bags also. And we're gonna try to cut it off on the 2nd of December, so it gives everybody the full month to, weather permitting and all, we don't have a lot of rainy days and stuff where you can't do it, but we're gonna try to get it done then by the 1st of December, actually the 2nd.
Mr. Judd, do we have a plan yet for Thanksgiving?
Yes, we do.
Okay. What are we looking at there?
You wasn't here the last meeting, I handed out a piece of paper to everyone. Thanksgiving is Thursday, and we're all down on Thursday. So we're gonna work Friday to pick up Thursday, we're gonna work Saturday to pick up Friday, and we'll be back. And the same type of thing for Christmas and too. We also have a holiday coming up in November. I'm gonna tell you wrong now, I didn't think to look at it, it's the 14th, I think, it's Veterans Day.
The 11th.
And we'll pick up trash that day also, so.
The 11th.
The 11th, yes, it is the 11th, excuse me, I had the wrong
You
date.
didn't do your history right, did you?
No, because I already talked about that before, and I don't know if I'm overkilling, or killing enough. But anyway, we're gonna do trash the same that week on the Monday holiday. So that's how we're doing. And Christmas is another thing, and it'll work the same way as Thanksgiving.
Are we gonna do the same thing for New Year's?
Yes, and that's on the same, I'll get you a copy of that, because I didn't think about it. Think about
Cost of operating your department last month, $111,161.01.
And it's a treat not to work on fire trucks as much as we were too. Phil appreciates that, I'm
Still have
sure.
a fire truck over there?
We still have the fire truck, they haven't come and put the transmission in and take it away yet. We're still waiting on that,
Where'd that end up going?
Shelbyville.
Shelbyville, okay.
in the school system.
How's the other ambulance? Have we seen it very much over there?
No, it hasn't been there at all.
Good.
Well, for normal things, but no, it hasn't been there for any kind of a breakdown lately.
We don't like those long stays.
No, it's like supposed to drive by without a siren on. Okay?
Thank you,
all. Thank you all very much.
Transfer station, we picked up 364 tons. We had a total cost of $10,923. We served at 701 customers, and we took in cash of $9,454. Recycling, we did 45 tons.
It's up a little bit, not a whole lot, but up some.
Any questions? I'm the transfer station man tonight. EMS.
Ian here, I guess.
EMS isn't here.
He's
Lying
in
down.
Gatlinburg
Okay.
on vacation.
Your monthly report, EMS, you can read it, you read it better than I do. Total runs were 210. Total runs for the whole year are 1,651. The city's share of the receipts were 15,351, and the expenses were 41,164. And of course, it's the same for the county. We are working on a program. We'll get there. We talked about it today.
Well, the total for operating it,
Go ahead.
as far as the city concerned, was $25,812.27, which is pretty good to run an ambulance service. Of course, the
is.
county paid that much also, but. that's
What's
a good
going to happen
operation.
here is the state has allowed us to come in and to consider all of our expense. Heat, lights, and water over at the station, gas, depreciation on the equipment, uniforms, everything we do, we're allowed to add that all up and take it against our income that is based from Medicaid proceeds only. And that difference will be reimbursed to us by the state. Our dilemma at this time is, we are not in a position to put that together by November 30.
Right, that's a deadline.
That's the deadline. Most cities or municipalities, fire departments that are running an ambulance are hiring different accounting firms, and we have contracted with an accounting firm called Blue LLC out of Indianapolis to put that together for us, and we're in the process. I talked to them today. It's possible we could get $45,000-$50,000 reimbursement for those things that aren't covered by our Medicaid payments. They realize that Medicaid payments are short of paying your total overhead.
Yes.
And so they're going to come back and give us that out of federal money that they receive. We'll be able to tell you better at the next meeting where we stand. Nobody seems to know at this point, but they're estimating $45,000-$50,000.
What's the cost of Blue and Company?
$10,000.
Is that for the city or split between city and county?
Split between city and county, yeah. It'll be paid on the expenses, so we'll never see it, but it'll just lower our expenses.
Awesome.
Okay, City TV, are you here, still here?
for the month, we had 10 hours, 5 minutes in meetings production, and original production 12 hours, 50 minutes. New program that we started producing, the Fayette Regional Health Talk is back, has a new set that we worked with them in cooperation to create. It airs weekdays at 6 p.m. and it is pretty good. It's got very good production value. They're putting a lot of effort into that, so take a look at that if you get a chance. And also the TV3 Volt is continuing, and that of course airs weekdays at 8 a.m., Saturdays at 10 p.m. This week we are featuring Bigfoot, so also tune in to watch that. It's fascinating.
It's down there on 121.
Yes. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. That completes our reports. Let's go back to where we were, if I can remember. We have an ordinance that would amend the capital plan to pay for economic development this year, 2013, $60,000, or the same as the county pays. We have a balance in the Economic Development Fund today of $56,008.75. We're anticipating we would receive $115,440. Remembering that we have a payment in the spring, the pool payment, and remembering we're going to pay $60,000 to economic development twice this year. So, that's where we stand.
We'd pay $60,000 twice this year?
No, excuse me, once.
I started
What
saying
is the
now, I'm
balance that
really
we
lost.
have now?
$56,008.75. That's the reason Julie told me we almost had enough to pay the
60.
And what's this 110,000?
115.
Mine says
110 on that.
No, what we're asking to do is reduce the capital plan to 60, actually, we're saying, whatever the county pays, up to 60,000.
Right, well, she's saying this 110,000.
She's saying,
The original was 110. We're asking to amend the
Exactly.
capital plan tonight. Unless you just don't want to.
You just have to
If you want to keep it at 110, that's your privilege.
Well, let me point something out that might be confusing. What this is an ordinance to amend the capital improvement plan of the city of Connersville, Indiana as amended. And the first whereas talks about the original amount of the capital improvement plan of $110,000 a year, and that was passed on August 2nd, 2004. Then the second whereas is the amendment I've referred to that was amended by ordinance 6094 to provide the city of Connersville would pay $110,000 for the year 2013 to the Economic Development Group, even though the funding was not matched with a like amount from Fayette County, Indiana. And the amount to be paid by the city of Connersville shall be determined by the Common Council on a yearly basis. And the next whereas is the current and last amendment, which says the capital improvement plan should be further amended to provide that the city of Connersville would pay an amount equal to the amount paid by Fayette County, Indiana in 2013 to the Fayette County Industrial Development Corporation, DBA Economic Development Group, one half to be paid in spring, one half in fall, not to exceed $60,000, and the amount to be paid by the city of Connersville shall be determined by the Common Council on a yearly basis. That's what's before you now, the third whereas.
So, thanks, John. So this 6095 ordinance for 110, just ignore that and we go back to the 60?
We're actually amending the amendment to go from 110 to 60.
So we're canceling that 3035 that we were ready for third vote
No,
on?
we're not even done there
Yeah,
yet. We're on the capital plan for the year of 2013. We have to have a capital plan.
If this were to change, then that would be, we'd have to vote on it and vote against it or for it, depending on what we do,
On third reading.
on third reading.
So we just ignore this?
I still don't
Can we kind of-
understand,
can
because
we
if
kind of
this
do
sets it
the-
as no more than 60,000, I don't know how you can vote for this other one.
Well, if this were to pass, then that would be null and void.
Okay.
If this doesn't pass, then this is still, I mean, you still have to vote on it.
The appropriation, the amount of appropriation can be reduced.
Yes.
It can't be raised.
But it can't
We
be
can reduce
raised.
this appropriation, this 110,000, we can reduce it to 60,000. We can't raise it, but we can reduce it.
I didn't know we approved that yet. That's
have-
my whole point.
Yes, we did.
It's
We
ready
approved
for
the capital
third,
plan.
Approved on
But
first.
we
and
did
October.
not approve the appropriation. We approved the capital plan, but not the appropriation.
not 110.
Right.
Thank you.
I thought we had two, we didn't get it to third vote, right?
Thanks, John.
We got there.
It passed first reading.
Well,
It stopped.
it passed and then
No, it stopped because one member of the council stopped it.
yeah, we couldn't go to third reading, yeah.
Can we go through the math and talk about what we've received and what we've paid out? Because isn't that what you went and did, was found out what we
Do
paid
what?
the pool?
We've had the one draw of that,
Do we get spring, we
Amount.
get it in 2 draws
Yeah.
from,
that's what we got in the spring, that's what we're gonna get it in December.
we know what we're getting?
$115,440.
Okay, say that again, in the spring.
$115,440.
That was total, not one draw.
That was
That's
one
what
draw.
we
One
received.
draw, we'll get it twice a year.
We get
And
that
the
amount
full payment
twice.
is-
So we get 230,000?
Right.
Yes,
And the pool payment is?
like 59,000
What I don't understand is
Twice a
if,
year.
twice a year.
if that money can only go toward the pool payment and EDG, and we're getting 230,000 this year, how we can not have the money?
Well, the pool payment's 59,000 and a half.
But 230 minus 120 leaves us 110.
Yeah, but, when we did this before, you didn't want to do 110. Then the county went down to 60, and that's the reason we proposed this ordinance to you. Once we passed this, well, I guess you couldn't raise it on the capital plan.
So in other words, the city wants to do what the county's doing. The same
Yes.
thing,
Yes.
60,000. Can we move on?
Okay, I'll move we
This is
pass
clear.
pending orders 3081 on first reading,
Second.
Pending ordinance 3081 is the
reducing that from 110
amendment,
to
it's an
60.
amendment to the capital plan, reducing the original amendment from 110 to 60 for the year of 2013.
Yes.
That's for the, yeah, and we haven't given any yet.
None.
Okay. But we go
Wait,
back
now,
to.
did we have a motion and we have a second? Who seconded that?
Gabe.
Gabe. Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're ready for discussion. Did you want to speak now?
I don't know that we're doing good. I think you understand the issue that's out there.
Okay, go ahead.
Did somebody say earlier that, we've discussed, we're given the 110, and it was decreased. There was talk at one point about the money going for a salary. Then we decided that there wasn't enough work for a position full-time.
I didn't decide
And then we
that.
talked about a building. But did somebody say that that couldn't be earmarked for a building? That wasn't, what,
I don't think this board has a right to put their thumb on what the EDG can do with their
Right.
money.
yeah, that's what I was
You
gonna
can't,
say.
but you
We-
can't control the purse strings. That's our job.
yeah,
It is.
Yeah. So really, we give it freely. We really can't say what it's for.
We have representation on the board.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to,
Now, let me tell you what you are doing. If you pass the capital plan that amends the amendment from 110 to whatever the county gives, not to exceed 60, you're locked in. You can't go any higher than that. If you want to go higher than that, you have to vote no on this capital plan, and then we have to have another amendment to the capital plan
and when do we do this for 14? Do we do it again
next year.
next year? At what time? Spring or fall?
Well, I guess we could do it anytime we want.
And if the county would increase theirs at that time, we'd have to amend this again, right?
No, it says it shall be determined by the common council on a yearly basis.
Okay.
So that gives you the option of next year determining a different amount without amending any further.
Okay, another thing is if there's 110 left, it can only be for pool. What are we gonna do with the rest if we don't get it?
We got a pool payment coming in the spring.
Okay.
We don't have 110,000 lying around, it's 56,000.
We have 56,000 right now in the bank, but we are expecting 115,440 before the end of the year, if everything goes right. Nobody knows what that is because it's based on people working, edit money, but that's what we should get. Which part of that would go for the pool payment, and part of that would go for economic development in the spring payment.
Assuming that's what the county gives us. Correct?
Assuming.
Right.
Yeah, there's no guarantee.
Yeah, there's no guarantee at that point.
The county gives for pool?
They
No.
control the edit funds.
They control the.
Oh,
And they
Oh, okay.
This is an edit
change every
process.
so often.
okay. But if we project, we have 56 now, we project that we're going to get 115, that would be 170-ish.
And you gotta pay a pool
And
payment
then a
due in the spring of
$60 or
$59,000.
$60,000 pool payment in the spring, once again, leaves you with about 110. I haven't cast my vote yet. I'm just wanting, I just
feel
need to see
very
numbers.
strongly that we need a full-time director. I just feel very strongly, I think that jobs are the most important thing for this city and this county. And I feel like that without jobs, we're gonna end up being a ghost town. And we got 300 and that's a darn good start, but that's all it is a start. I'm gonna shut up.
I think that 300 will grow beyond that 300 if everything goes like it's supposed to.
If it goes to 1,000, it's still not enough.
Be a big help though, since we had 772 apply for a job,
Yeah, it would.
and probably 20% of the 772 maybe weren't eligible. I don't know, I didn't ask the statistics, all I knew is there were 772 people that went up there to look for a job.
Let's go.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the amendment to the amendment, which would limit it to 60,000, or what the county pays up to 60,000 on the capital plan amendment only, not on the ordinance that's pending before us on third reading. Are you ready for the question?
Yes.
Does everybody understand what we're doing?
Yes.
Find out tomorrow that someone didn't understand what we're working on here. Are you okay? Ready for the question? Okay. A roll call vote.
Councilman Shomel,
Yes.
Councilman Nabi,
Yes.
Councilwoman Montgomery,
No.
Councilwoman Stevens,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rish.
No.
3-2.
3-2.
Okay. You have adopted the capital plan. What I'd like to do at this point is to go to, let's go right down to C and take this.
Do we have to have another vote on this or something?
I'm not going to. This is pending ordinance 30-35. This is an ordinance now that is to give $110,000 to the Economic Development Group.
Mr. Mayor, we can't do this one yet, because this one is passed on.
That's
We
this
have to
one.
pass this one on third reading.
Well, that's what I mean. And so, but we have to amend it before we can pass it, because it's 110 in our capital plan.
No,
now
we
calls-
haven't
we still
passed
have to pass the capital improvement
on third reading.
Oh, because it's an ordinance.
Yes.
You got me so confused, I don't know whether I'm here.
Hairbrush.
Okay. I was thinking we were on. Would you like to suspend the rules and consider pending ordinance 3081 on third and final reading?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. On suspension of rules only, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, we can move forward. On pending ordinance 3081 on third and final reading, amending the amendment to the capital plan from 110 to 60, whatever the county pays, up to 60. On the amendment to the amended capital plan only, on third and final reading, we'll have a roll call vote.
Councilwoman Stevens,
No.
Councilwoman Rish,
No.
Councilman Shomel,
Yes.
Councilman Nabi,
Yes.
Councilwoman Montgomery,
No.
Now it's 3-2 the other way. Now, what do you do? We never had this happen, John. What do you do now? Huh?
Well, it didn't pass.
It failed on third reading. Okay. Let's go then down to pending ordinance 3035 on third and final reading. We are at third and final reading, and the amendment to the amended capital plan still reads $110,000. We are at third and final reading, that if you vote yes, we're giving $110,000. If you vote no, I'm not sure what we're doing, but that's what we're voting on right now. Is there any further discussion?
If we vote no, we're not paying anything.
Is there any discussion?
If we vote yes, we're paying 110,000 when we only have 56,000. So I think that's
This
just
is
something
a mess.
we need to keep in mind.
It's pathetic. I think we should have had an option of setting it at 90,000, like we promised to begin with.
I agree. I mean, something besides 110.
I think we should
Something
pay
besides
comparable.
110 or 60.
I say we pay comparable to the county. When the county raises theirs, we'll raise ours. It's a 50-50 deal, I think.
Okay, well, that already failed on third reading. Passed on first reading, but failed on third reading. I guess they have the right to amend it to a different figure. We can still amend the capital plan to a different figure.
Right. The one before you did not pass. So if you want to go back at it again with a different amendment, you can do that.
So it'll be the third amendment to the capital plan. If you want to amend it to say 90,
Are these, I mean, we're working in two different entities here, the county over here and us. So, you know,
but we're
But
going
these
to
are
depend
people
on the county to
to
give us the money.
That's, well,
That's the problem.
yeah. So, I mean, I agree with Fran in the fact that, you know, I think we should, you know, at least do the same as them. But aren't you kind of biting the hand that feeds you in a way? I mean, I think we're kind of working in different circles. Can we not try to come together, and if we would extend our hand and try to give more, maybe they would give us more.
But we're gonna get it from.
Well,
56,000.
right.
And you're
Yeah.
trying to pay 110.
Well, the balance is 56 right now,
And there's supposed to be money coming in for the
and
end of the
you're
year.
waiting for a
That's
deposit.
supposed to, it isn't, it's not a guarantee.
Well, when do we have to make this decision? I mean, I guess there's a lot of unknowns here.
Well, we've been fooling with it about 3-4 months. It's about time to make a decision.
When is the deposit, when is the,
It's been due for a long time.
so are they holding out on us? I mean, these are things I don't know. When,
We're supposed to get more money from them in December, the county.
well, I mean,
Those two.
like I do at home, I mean, I can't spend until I have it.
We could set it for 90,000 and get 45 now. We got 50-some thousand in there. And get 45 in December.
I mean, I think that's kind of hard asking you to spend money that you don't know you're gonna get.
How do you spend money if you don't have it?
You don't.
Or, I mean, you know you're getting some, but you don't know how much.
You don't know it till you get it in your hand.
Right.
Okay,
I
let's,
understand that.
let's come to order here. We have voted down the capital plan on third reading. Do you want to amend the capital plan to a different amount?
Do we have to pay them by a certain date?
We should have paid them a long time ago.
I believe they typically pay quarterly,
Yeah.
and we've not received anything yet this year.
But I mean, you'd be happier if you got something after we knew what we were getting.
To be here. Let me just say this, one of the things that I have found absolutely fascinating about this position is how contentious the money part is. Now, I do occasionally watch TV3 Vault, John, and I was watching maybe a month ago, and they were interviewing candidates, Meet the Candidate Night, and you know what they were talking about? Jobs, economic development, unemployment. You know what year it was? 2000. You know, here we are in 2013, and so we have some things that are happening. The reason I stand before you this evening is because in a meeting with at least the county, I wasn't there, but talking about funding EDG, trying to move forward, trying to find ways to promote this community and find jobs, that conversation went so poorly that someone chose they didn't want to be in this position anymore. We do need to be working together. I didn't come here tonight to be contentious and fight with you, but I think that when you make a decision, I always try to make sure people have a full understanding of what it is they're deciding on. What you decide, you decide. To be honest with you, I thought funding for the city and public entities would be very much like school. Your resolutions and your capital plans and that are very foreign to what we do. So when you look and say, you know, how does this work? I can't tell you. I don't know how your funding and approval process works. I would be remiss as chairman of the Economic Development Board if I didn't come and advocate for our position. Whatever decision is made, we are going to have to work together. And I will do, for as long as I can, work together with whatever we have to work with. I just wanted you to be informed from our perspective as we saw it. That's all. Didn't mean to make anybody upset. But I just think it's important that you, rather than make a decision in isolation, you have a full understanding of the facts, and then you decide what's in the best interest of the city. That's your job. That's your responsibility, and I respect that. You have more information on the inner workings of the city than I do. I live in the county. But we as a community need to work together to bring jobs and to help restore the economy in this community. There are good things happening. That's a disappointing part to me. There are good things happening, but it seems to be more contentious than it's been in the past. And maybe that's because I'm closer to the fire than I've ever been. But I guess that's really all I have to say, unless you have questions.
What is your position on a director, the necessity of a director?
On a director, we had a search for a director. Let me say that when the mayor called me early on a Tuesday morning, I think it was, maybe it was a Wednesday morning, and shared with me how a meeting went and that I was the acting chair of EDG, and we talked about, or at least in my own mind, I formulated some things that I wanted to see happen. We were concerned, we were still fairly early in the conversation with Wiseout. We didn't want to give the impression that we were in disarray. We wanted to try to show some continuity, and I thought that was important, and I said I would stay for that. I thought it was going to be more like 30 days or less, but here I am some 6 months later, and we're closing that out. But the other thing was, I wanted to stay until we had an economic development director. I think that's a really important thing for us to have. We went through a search. I believe we had about 11 people apply. The committee went through all those applications. They brought two to us to view as finalists. The city had the opportunity to interview them just as a city. The county had the opportunity to interview them just as a county, and then the full board interviewed them. I will tell you that one candidate, we were unanimous in our thoughts that person was not a person we wanted to hire as an economic development director. The second person we were a little bit more divided on. I think that person would have helped move us forward from where we are, but it was evident from the conversation that person wasn't going to have full support of the board, and rather than set somebody up for failure, we called that a failed search, and we're back looking at a search again. We're looking at a more targeted search, where we are contacting, or in the process of contacting other economic development groups that may have staff more than just one person, to see if there's somebody that might have an interest to come to Connersville, Indiana. As you saw tonight, I gave my card to somebody else. We are looking. That is, from my perspective, that is a goal. I think there's a lot of things that an economic development director can do for us that I cannot do, or a volunteer cannot do, because we have other responsibilities. So we are looking. I'm disappointed we don't have somebody in that position yet. I'm hopeful that we will find someone soon. I don't know that I can tell you the timeline that we have set up, but we are searching for one. I will tell you that one of the other things that we decided recently, there's talk that we don't need a director, we need a spec building. We formed a committee that's going to go out and view some spec buildings and have conversations to see if that really is something that we really need to do. I don't know that I have an opinion on that. I'm thankful that the city was able to get out from underneath the old Visteon building. As was mentioned earlier, there are costs associated with an empty building. And so part of me says, why do we want to create another empty building? But I want to be open-minded and make sure that we have the facts and we can see, and then we can make an informed decision. That's going to have an impact on our finances. We had a meeting last week with an individual that we had been talking either or, building or director. We believe that there are ways that we can partner with people and help finance the building, that we may be able to do both. Not here to tell you that we are, just telling you we are looking at those things to see what we can do to help move, build on the momentum that I think is really out there for Connersville and Fayette County. Does that help? Got a few other things to say, but I've been up here much
You
longer
just
than I
get me
anticipated.
stirred up when you talk it.
I did.
Because we have put tremendous amount into economic development. More than economic development, more than county, more than anybody, in the thousands and thousands of dollars that we have put into economic development. And we have put an extra 40 in there this year by selling the Pramco property and giving that money to economic development. We wanted to, we could have done that on our own and kept that money.
I don't recall how that all worked together, but I do know that we worked together in economic development, reaped some revenue from that we wouldn't ordinarily have received on that. But I just think it's important, I felt it was important, that you know what are some of the benefits that you're getting from the money that you're investing in economic development. It's not just building a cash balance, it's not just sitting around going, what's going to fall into our laps. It really is going out and talking to folks. I have talked to Mr. French. I didn't realize that's who it was till he was introduced this evening, but I have had conversations with him. I've had conversations with the folks out at the Whitewater Center. Is it
Trade Center.
Trade Center. I'm going to say Career Center, but that's not the right place. Have talked to them. I know he has talked to some fairly large retailers that he's hopeful that we'll be able to move into the Walmart building. I don't know how close we are to that, but I have talked to him about what we can do to help promote his properties and try to bring more business here. We're both hopeful, we're all hopeful that with Tractor Supply being there, with Hallmark being there, that's going to be attractive for people to get more traffic down there, then people will be more inclined to open businesses there. We're having a meeting tomorrow with a local business person who is interested in another vacant property, trying to figure out how he can make that work. I don't know how we make that work. We're going to try to see if there's a way that we can try to help make that work. So it's not just about waiting for things to fall in our lap. I think if we had a director that could go out and cultivate some of those relationships, I think that would really help. I'm working with another business here in town. In fact, I was out there again today. They have some transportation and storage needs, and I get some mixed messages as to where they're actually at in that process. I went out today, had conversation with them. They've had some difficulties in production. He said when he gets that all settled out, then we'll have some conversation, see what we can do to try to make sure that they see that Connersville is a place they want to and need to do business in. There's a couple others, but I don't want to belabor the point. We did have two prospects come to us today. Project JC and Project Elwood, but neither of those, we can't meet the needs that they have. Building is part of it, but there were some other things that as we look at that, we could respond, but it would be a waste of our time and their time to do that. But I don't think we're going to make progress if we just sit and wait for people to come back. We need to be going out and making contacts, making sure that our local business and manufacturing know that we are interested in them, that we're here to try to help them as much as we can to stay here in Connersville, keep our folks working. That's pretty much what I have. There's probably a few other notes in there I could throw in. There are a lot of things exciting happening, and I'm not here to take credit for it. I'm not saying ED should take credit for it, but when you look at the new bank building, Union Savings and Loan going up on 30th Street, that's very attractive. That's going to make that very attractive there. There was two ribbon cutting ceremonies this week. We talked about Tractor Supply. Fayette Regional had a ribbon cutting for their Jerry Psych Ward. Randy reported that was about a $2.5 million investment in that property, and will bring in about 23 jobs associated with that. We've talked about Wayzata. The mayor talked about an individual that we met with. I think where we're at in that is waiting for some sales agreement contracts to be passed back and forth between the attorneys to see if we can make that work. That's on the 17 acres, used to be called 20 acres, more or less. It's more like 17. But that project looked like that's a go. We are hopeful that, really optimistic by February or March, you'll see some activity up there with some business moving into that. And talking to that, he hopes to grow that business very, very quickly. His short-term commitment on that's about 30 jobs. The 5-year plan he gave us was more like 100 jobs, but we're optimistic that that's going to be more than that. And we had some conversation about another project that he has some interest in maybe bringing here if some things work out for us to do that. The beauty of that job, as the mayor had indicated, he's not asking for abatements, he's not asking for tips. There are some things we are helping him with, but he's really taken a liking to our community. I think it's because of the way we approach folks, we build relationships with them, and they kind of like us. And he's anxious to see if we can bring some more jobs. So if that particular piece would come in, that is exciting, and I think that one would grow very rapidly. Don't have anything in writing, but did I misconstrue anything in those conversations?
Not that I know, but we're still on this dilemma here.
Well, I'm just trying to make the most of my presentation that I can, but there again, there are a lot of things happening. Appreciate your consideration on that. Just want to make sure that you're making an informed decision, and I know you'll do what's in the best interest of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your optimism, Dr. Hunt.
Thank you.
You want to pursue this capital plan tonight and amend it to a different number? Would you like to table this whole thing? Whatever you want to do. Or we can move down to pending ordinance 3035 for the 110 and have a vote on that tonight.
Could I add just one thing? That EDG board, there are some really good people on that really care about this town. I know that they really care about jobs, the county and the city. And they put in a lot of hours for no money. And I don't think we need to oversee every penny they spend. Dave, you said that we had a responsibility.
No, we don't have, we have a responsibility to.
And the funding.
To give
You're
the
true.
funding, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. But I do think there has to be a certain amount of trust involved. If you're gonna have people trying to do those jobs, then there has to be some faith in them too. I'm done. Whatever anybody wants to do with this.
Well, my point is that since EDG was born, it's been a 50-50 deal between the city and the county. And if the county gets 60, I think we should get 60, and so be it. That's my feeling.
My problem was with some of the wording where it said we would match the county up to a maximum of 60,000.
Well,
Instead of, because they've talked about if things would go well, that they would raise
You have
them.
the opportunity at this time to amend that amendment if you'd like to. You tell me how you want it amended, and we will vote on it tonight.
I think there might be some advantage to table it, and I'm not trying to cut this short, but, you know, we have 2 council members that aren't here to give their opinion as well. And
I'll move
taking it 2 weeks.
I'll move we table this.
Second.
Yep.
See, that's a motion, I'll second.
What do we do with the money if we don't buy it? Where does the money go back to then?
It can only go for the pool.
Economic
And this-
development. Okay, you have a motion, but I don't hear a second.
Now, Gabe said.
Did you second the table, just the capital plan? Okay. We have a motion on the floor that we table the capital plan until a later date. Any discussion? Have a roll call vote.
Councilman Shomel,
Yes.
Councilman Nobby,
Yes.
Councilwoman Montgomery,
Yes.
Councilwoman Stevens,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rish.
Yes.
Okay, we have tabled the capital plan to a later date. Moving down to, tear down the house at 228 West Second Street. We've been calling it the Red House. We now have it through court, and we can tear it down.
You
David,
had a transfer for the city TV.
where did you see that?
That's a new business. 6142.
City TV transfer.
Okay, from
38.
travel to other equipment, excuse me. Pending ordinance, it's written in there. Pending ordinance 3083, This ordinance would take 661.43 from travel to other equipment. Pending ordinance 3082. From travel to other equipment. This is a transfer in city TV. Okay. What's your pleasure?
Mr. Mayor, I move to accept pending ordinance 3082.
I'll second.
Did we have a motion and a second to transfer $420.21 from travel to other equipment in cable TV? Any discussion? None? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would you like to suspend the rules and consider it on third reading?
So moved.
Second.
On suspension of rules only to consider pending ordinance 3082 on third and final reading on suspension of rules only. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Would you like to consider on third and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to consider pending ordinance 3082 on third and final reading, transferring $420.21 from travel to other equipment. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. You're done with that. We also have pending ordinance 3083. 83, if I can find it up here. This is an ordinance that allows us to sell the building, advertised to sell the property just above the ballpark.
We don't have it.
Yes, you do. Pending ordinance 3083.
It's on the table. What we got here?
Yeah. It might be in this stack up here.
Okay.
Anyway, it's an ordinance that would allow us to sell that building or that property behind the Hasslers over there.
Is it the old FOP place?
Yes, we have it, both appraisals in, but we have to advertise. So we need to pass that so we can move forward with that.
How much ground is it?
Less than an acre and a half, right, John?
That's right. And it's located in that floodplain, correct?
It's right behind Hasslers and
Yes.
it extends up toward the old Miller cafeteria.
So it's that hillside then?
Well, only the top of the hillside, not the hillside. We have no need for it, it's straight up and down,
Yeah.
and then there's a flat area that they've been using for years, we want to put it back on tax roll. Pending ordinance 3083.
I move to accept pending ordinance 3083.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? I think we've worked on this for several weeks, we all know what we're doing. Okay. On pending ordinance 3083, allowing us to advertise the sale of that real estate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. I'd like to suspend the rules and consider it on third and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion to consider pending ordinance 3083. This ordinance would allow us to advertise for the sale of that real estate. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I want to tell you about that Second Street house. You'll have to probably appropriate some money for the dumpsters.
That's the red house, right?
Yeah. You got an estimate?
Yeah, I'll call tomorrow and get that.
Okay, I need an estimate before we can okay that. Okay, it's ready to go. I wanted you all to know it's ready. We got that through this week.
Well, it can't be torn down until November 1st.
Oh, it can't be until November 1st?
Yeah, it's 30 days from
He
October.
said that the last
Okay,
meeting.
we got plenty of time, so bring in some
So I have
estimates.
to wait till next meeting? then
No,
we'll do
just
that?
bring in some estimates at the next meeting. Okay, the Grand Avenue house we've been working on, and David today got that
There's a gentleman here in town
off
come to
the
me,
grant.
about a week or so ago and asked me about that building. He's got 6 other houses in town he's redone. I told him who owned the house and where he lived. He gave me his phone number. He contacted the guy and he bought the house. And he's talked with Bill McDaniel from area planning and see what it's going to take to fix the roof and go ahead and remodel the house.
That's that big one.
At 12, it's 130, I think it's 131 West 12th, but it's right at the corner of 12th and Grand.
They had the fire.
Yeah, big fire.
Yeah, back was burnt, front's good, and, so, he's been pretty successful in remodeling some other houses, and he bought it from this other guy, and And that's what his plans are. So one thing we can do at this time, I mean, they've been keeping the place mowed and cleaned up. I had a lady tell me the other day, oh, there's kids running out there, broken glass, everything else, and I went up there and that was totally unfounded. All them windows that were busted were boarded up, and all the windows that aren't broken are fine. So, only thing I can report is that it has been a purchase made, and this guy has intentions of remodeling. He's already got their planning to what he has to do with the roofs when it comes together and all this, and what is expected and all this. And that's about all I can say at this time, so we can sit back and watch.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's good news.
Item C, and this will clear this up. This is the third and final reading on the economic development funding of $110,000. Do you want to table that too, or do you want to have third vote on it?
Table.
I need a motion then.
I'll make a motion we table pending ordinance 3035.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to table pending ordinance 3035, which would be third reading on the economic development payment to the economic development group. All in favor of tabling pending ordinance 3035, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. That's all we have to do on that. Miscellaneous business, Nancy?
No,
Debbie?
no.
Gabe?
I just think we all need to be, putting our prayers and our thoughts of the people, the victims in, Nevada, in that school shooting today.
There's a school shooting again today?
Yeah, a teacher was shot and 2 kids.
In
And
grade
then,
school?
Middle school,
I've been home long enough to even know.
Where they have that?
Nevada.
It's near Reno, but I'm not,
Yeah.
small town near Reno.
It's happened to me too many times. They tell us this happened when I was a kid, we just didn't hear about it. I don't think that's true. I think it's something new. Any miscellaneous business, right?
No.
Okay. Public forum? No business. Anybody else want to speak? Do you want to speak? Sat there all evening and made faces at me, you want to speak? No public forum. If you refer to your utility sheet, excuse me, it's not in your packet, don't look for it. It came too late today, I didn't get it till, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock. I'll just go through it with you. On our water, we started the month with $675,000, $675,204.55. We ended the month with $718,169.76. On sewer, we started the month with $534,389.93, and we ended the month with $543,605.66. You can see where we inch up with our start and our finish just a little bit each time. I think that the new rates are now showing because they've been in since August 1st. And in stormwater, we started with $1,258,775.63, ended up with $1,289,597.90. Now, stormwater always looks like it's growing because we don't spend it until we do a project. We have put in 150 of the new meters are in, and we have paid for 1,018 meters. So our goal was to put in 1,000 meters by Christmas. I think we're going to meet our goal. Those 1,000 meters are not functioning and not giving us proper readings. It should help our income. So if you look at it overall, in the utility department, we're inching up slowly. We're not where we need to be, but we're getting there. And in the same process, we're in the process of putting these new meters in, which experts tell us will increase our revenue at least by 10%. Any questions on the utility?
Can I avoid getting one of those meters?
We're putting the meters in where the meters have failed first.
Dang.
And then, once we get those in, then we'll go back and get the rest of them. You got your industrial development, your fact sheet here, everybody got that? That's a new piece. And I think that's all I've got. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion, somebody, to adjourn in a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried, meeting adjourned.